Good morning, everyone, and welcome for today. We have a little bit of an intimate setup to start with, but I suggest we start nevertheless right away. Um, Capital markets technology, that's what it's about, and it's a domain which has been extremely dynamic for decades, even more so today. Why is that? It's because finance and the business actually is catching up with evolving macroeconomic. Capital markets has gone more complicated because of regulations and scale. And finally, more than ever, technology is capable of disruption. So we'll be talking about this wide topic, but we'll focus on what's happening within financial institutions and mainly banks. We will not cover what relates banks with all actors. In order to do that, we're very lucky today to have two very senior IT professionals, Michael Brovman from Standard Chartered Bank and Stephen Heywood from Commonwealth Bank of Australia. They both have seen it all the cycles in terms of technology. They have very senior position today and are yet extremely operational. And among our clients, I must say that there are two of the individuals who have the clearest vision of where the market is going. We'll be covering a question which has been around for at least 30 years in this industry. The question has been around and the answer has changed over time. And the question is about, when you're a bank, what's the technology that you have to build and what's the technology that you have to buy? Put it differently, what's the IP that you believe you have to own because it creates an important differentiation? And what's the IP that you can license or use through whichever kind of services? Now, since the topic is complex, we are projecting it on 5 different axes, which you can see here. The analytics, application development, platform development, high-end engineering, and then data management in general, and all the goodies that you expect out of it. These are not easy topics, so we may cut one of them if we don't have enough time. So let us start with analytics. If you look at our client base at Murex, a few clients develop analytics all the way, including for simple products, including for calibrations of market data. At the other end of the spectrum, many clients use all the analytics out of the box. And only some of them, for certain areas where they believe they have an edge, they develop and invest in analytics and then plug them into the platform. So first question, starting with you, Mikhail. What is the position of Standard Chartered on analytics? What is your take on that? And do you see any change in the future?
Well, I think it comes from the position of business demand. If you are a market maker participating in price discovery, then you have no choice but to build your own analytics. They need to be consistent. They need to be fast. If you are, on the other hand, corporate, interested in some valuation of hedges or some bonds maybe, then vendor analytics are probably fine. The reason I make that distinction is you have quite a high cost associated with building your own analytics. You need a quant team, you need infrastructure, you need to support them, whereas if you use mutualized platform with some solid analytics, and that should be fine if you're a corporate. Of course, there is everything in between, but there is also not just the cost, but also if you are a regulated institution, you have to look at things like FRTB, and that attracts additional burden of regulatory approval for your analytics as well, because you have to use the same analytics in pricing as in risk and reporting. So I think, to summarize this, it's a question of demand and how you manage cost to meet that demand.
Stephen, anything you want to add?
Our approach has been to principally leverage platform where we can, but supplement that with analytics, typically to meet customer needs or in places where we particularly want to do something that's beyond the reach of the platforms that we use.
Thanks. On our side, I think what we view and we try to address what you mentioned, which means that we try to cover within Murex as many analytics as possible when the products become reasonably standard, the products or the model. And the way we try to do it precisely to address what you said about platform is to have something which is very robust on the analytics point of view, quite fast, and which is manageable within a model validation framework, just to make, I would say, the adoption a little bit easier. But obviously recognizing what you said, which is that there's still a frontier beyond which banks in certain areas decide to develop their own analytics. We allow banks to plug those within the system and to benefit from all the functionality behind. So I would say this first topic is clear. The second one is about application development. Here, among our client base, we see some client mixing between applications that they build, I don't know, for instance, for nonlinear rates or credit risk, and some others which they use on the outside, which they buy, for instance, for FX trading, linear rate trading, market risk, or the like. At the other end of the spectrum, we have institutions trying to put as much as possible in applications that are bought. And I must say that the frontier is not always extremely clear. So you could say that it's sometimes based on differentiation, but sometimes it is not necessarily the case. So starting with you, Stephen, and knowing that you try to put as much as possible in a platform, what's your view on this topic? And do you see any overall trends in the market there?
If you look back through the history, if you go back 20 years, people used to either build or even put in individual platforms for regional purposes or for specific business lines that they wanted to try and grow. And then over time, the platforms that are available have become capable of doing much more of what is required by the businesses. And so the opportunity to consolidate both business lines and products into a single platform has become much easier. And so the model that we're using at the Commonwealth Bank is we've consolidated most of our business into Murex. And we do that because it suits most of our purposes and most of our needs. Now, sometimes we build things around that core platform, but primarily where we can leverage the platform, we will always try and use it because there's a mandatory requirement to have a platform in the environment. So you should try and get all of the things that you can out of that and then only build in front and around that where you need to solve a specific problem or need. And that is something that I've seen in several banks where, and right across the marketplace with different people that I speak to, the consolidation story has been very strong, particularly post the GFC, where people have tried to consolidate on the platforms, but the platforms that are available have allowed people to do that. And so I think that's something that's occurred more and more and more over time.
Are there specific areas where you see the needs today to develop, where you think that the platform logic did not reach what your needs are?
Typically in sales connectivity.
Yeah.
So in front of the platform, depending on the market that you operate and the customers that you want to operate in, the things that you build in front of the core platform to connect to your customers is the places where people build something, but it still inevitably ends up back in a core platform and they're building in front of it or behind the platform with things like trade reporting and things like that. There's always data issues, which hopefully we'll get to in the schedule, and people build solutions around solving those problems behind the core platform. But typically the rationalization onto a single core platform for the source of trades is the thing that I think is the sensible way to go about it and is obvious in the marketplace is something everyone seems to be aligning to.
Thank you. Mikhail, you have a strong internal development teams and your model is a little bit more hybrid. What is your take on the topic?
Well, we field that you build where you have IP, mostly where you are facing the client, so where you're making markets, where you're enabling certain transactions and what have you. As you move further away from the market-making activity, you, in fact, tend to use mutualized platforms. Let's face it, it's who would want to build a bond settlement platform these days? It's well established. There are services that you can purchase, and they are absolutely fine. So I feel that you, as you move away from immediate client service, you tend to mutualize and seek out vendor relationships.
Is this border moving?
Yes, it's moving, and the markets are moving too. So you will find that as much as there is more mutualization, and I can give you a number of examples of that, it's the markets expand into what it is you end up providing to the client, and therefore there is a constant change in all of that. But I find that in things like cash management, where we use Murex quite successfully, it's a problem that is solved, and frankly, why would you not use a vendor platform there? What is the advantage of building it your own? I can think of many disadvantages of, because you can do it always poorly, and when there is a well-established platform, why would you not use it?
Thank you. On our side, obviously, when we look at clients, we see in certain cases this mix of in-house and purchased application. Even if we wish everybody bought everything from us, it's not the case, which is understandable. But there is something which depresses us, and which leads me to the third topic, is that very often when we see at banks different systems, let's say one in-house doing, for instance, non-linear rates, and another one licensed doing linear rates, there's a lot of replication at the core level in terms of data, in terms of calculations, in terms of processes. And as I said, it leads me to the third topic of platform. What we did within Murex to build all our applications within the integrated platform is to develop a set of core services, like, for instance, managing the life cycle of a transaction or a position, like, for instance, orchestrating different kind of calculations, like managing market data and calibrated market data, like aggregating in an in-memory database data which is similar with the same data dictionary across different kinds of usages and the like. And of course, this is not visible, but it's below every single application that we have built. So the question is the following. Suppose that this was open to our clients or to the market, or suppose that something similar existed from another provider. Do you think that this notion of platform is something which is useful? Do you think that it's something that, if it existed and it addressed your different needs, it's something that you would look at, or you would build it, or would you buy it from the outside? Mikhail, to start with.
Well, first of all, if such were in existence, I think it would be a huge enabler. Unfortunately, such open platforms at the moment do not exist. Otherwise, I would certainly be a strong advocate of investing in one. Platform is an enabler. Having real-time risk, having real-time credit exposure to the client is those must-have things that if you're an active participant in the markets, you absolutely must have. And having it differentiates you from the rest of the market. And you can build on that. You can build services on top of that, and so it's a competitive advantage. Having it, on the other hand, is if it's built in-house, attracts a great deal of cost again. It requires a lot of maintenance, even if it's highly componentized. It's still, as you expand in the markets, you constantly changing, and it becomes a complex toolkit. Again, if some vendor were to open up their platform, I think it would be a very much a hot topic in the market, because such platforms, and I believe, to your earlier point, that line constantly is shifting. I think that day will come when an open platform like that will become available, and I think the institutions will invest in it.
Thank you. Stephen, would you see any benefit from something like that, given that you try as much as possible to use applications out of the box? Do you think that it would give you this extra flexibility, which would allow you to address certain parts of the businesses that you can't address today?
Yeah, it aligns to the principles that I adhere to around leveraging the core platforms that are available. I think being able to share trade workflows, there's just so much of the platform that is the same in all of the activity that you do, and often you're just trying to solve variations on it, and the ability to leverage what is the same repeatedly in a single place, and then just add to that the things that you need to solve the specific problems that you have, is very appealing, and something that I would subscribe to. I think that it's something that's, you have to be very careful with it as well, though. You have to, when you get access to that kind of flexibility, you need to be selective about how you use it, as to not create problems for yourself as well. And so I'm a big subscriber to it, but again, you just need to be a little bit careful in not creating problems for yourself. But that's like all engineering. Yeah, if the more you have the ability to be flexible, you have the ability to create issues. But yeah, again, totally aligned for me.
Thank you. On our side, we recognize, obviously, that it doesn't exist today in the open market. As mentioned, it's something that we had to build for ourselves. And maybe even the way we use it can be a little bit more systematic and formalized. The idea of proposing it is something that we want to do. We're very aware of the risk of openness, because time and again we've seen cases of platform very open which hit a wall. I think that we'll be able to say we have it the day we push it through your labs, the labs of your teams, and you give us a green light on that. So that's not tomorrow, but hopefully it will come. Because I would agree with what you said, Mikhail, which is that a time will come when it will become necessary, and where the complexity will be mastered enough to make it digestible. Let's move on to engineering. That's another interesting topic. Unfortunately, we cannot go very deep on each of these topics. They would deserve a full day, each of them. Today, if you assume that you have a platform managing, for instance, within the bank, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 businesses, maybe one business will be pretty stable, very high volume. Another business will need a lot of innovation injected all the time. A third business will be being implemented because it's new. So you see that within the same platform, very often you have lots of different cycles that you have to manage. And you don't want to disturb what's working very well while you're injecting innovation or implementing stuff. The way to do it is essentially through very high-end engineering, automating everything that you're doing around testing, around the deployment of your code, of the configuration, which defines the way your processes are defined in the platform, and of your technical environment. This kind of engineering, we implemented it at the level of the production of our core software. So it's not the end software which is used at the level of the banks with their data and their processes, the core software. And I must say it was a lifesaver because it allowed us to increase the level of innovation while maintaining and even increasing also the level of quality. And we believe that the platform seen from the client, so with the data of the client, with their processes being defined by configuration or by coding, with all their integration, should benefit in general from the same level of engineering to make innovations, to make upgrades, etc., easier. So the question that I have, and I'll start with you, Stephen, is that would you agree on the potential of this engineering? And if it is the case, would you agree that a bank should either prioritize the investments in terms of culture or in terms of technology to reach that point, or outsource it?
So I think investing in engineering is compulsory for everyone. And if you ask any engineers about whether they feel the investment is worth it through time, they will all say yes. And one of the challenges that I've seen in lots of different organizations is that prioritizing that investment sometimes is difficult. And for lots of different reasons. But we've made, in our case, we've made a huge investment at CBA in terms of engineering culture and engineering practices and the tools that we use. And you see
across the board,
but specifically in the global markets area of our business. And once you make that decision, a few things happen. The people that engineers want to exist in that environment. And so if you want a strong engineering team, you need to have those cultures and processes and tools inside your environment. And the benefits of having made that investment and made that investment ongoing is not only about retaining the people that you have, it reduces the operational risk that you have around doing change, it increases the stability that you have in the environment in just so many ways. And so I don't think, I keep waiting for us to get to the point where we don't talk about it like it's an optional thing. For most of the industry, I think they're there, but not everybody's there. If you don't invest in those practices, you simply cannot run a sustainable environment. And so for us, it's been a huge area of energy and prioritization. And sometimes that's an education journey where you need to help other people inside your business units understand why they should do that. But it's definitely worth the time, and it will repay itself in the team that you run and the performance of the applications that you run inside your production environment.
Would you say that today you are at the target you had defined for yourself, or it's a journey?
Oh, I think it will. I think it's continually, the best practices continue to evolve and we pursue them. I think we've made a lot of progress and I think we're in a very good shape. But I think, new things get created inside the industry, and so adopting those new practices, and particularly the tooling changes a lot. And so continuing to adopt that is something that it has to be an ongoing investment that you make, and something that we continue to focus on.
Thank you. Mikhail?
Well, I think that without strong engineering culture, you're somewhat lost. We all compete in the same marketplace for the best talent, and great engineering culture attracts great engineers. And without it, you're just non-competitive, and that's not a good proposition. But engineers require tools, they require platform on which to develop, and those things have to be invested on, because then all of the things that you must have in terms of controls, in terms of security, unless they're built in and easy to use, they will not happen. And without all of that, you expose yourself. But I think strong engineering is also a business necessity. I think technical debt and obsolescence are business priorities, and by that I mean reduction of this. And I see it as two sides of the same coin, because that makes you more, and a coin is how competitive you are in the market. And unless you have a strong engineering culture and it's well understood by the business as to the necessity of having it, I think you will not be as competitive as you should be. So I think it's a must.
Thank you. Music to my ears, because we are strong believers in that, as I said, and I must tell you that with some of our clients sometimes, and I'm not going to give names, it's not so clear that it is a side of the same coin, in a sense that some of them very often ask us for business cases before entering into engineering investments, which we find a little bit counterintuitive, because precisely it's very much linked to the business they're in. This is why actually within Murex, we are, as you can imagine, as a software provider, we're always depressed when we invest enormously to produce innovation and when the innovation is not consumed by the clients, which means that either the client implements this level of engineering, as you both described, or we have to find ways to help. And we have developed different levels of ways to help, some of which where we propose tools and different kind of partnership relation to allow them to use them. And some of those where the bank does not want to enter into that and wants to outsource it, we'll tell them, okay, we'll insource it in our SaaS, for instance. But we really believe that it's an absolutely essential topic also. Data now. Data is supposed to be the new oil, or I should say the new power to be greener. The reality is that when you look at capital markets in general, whereas data is, of course, extremely important in certain areas like pricing or pre-trade, you don't necessarily see a consistent end-to-end strategy. And the topic is very wide, and the topic, everybody talks about it today in the context of AI. So instead of looking at it in general, I'd like to give you one or two examples and to ask for your comments, and this time, both of you in whichever order. Suppose I'm a client manager at a bank, so I'm facing a few important accounts. Suppose that I tell you that I need to have access to all trades ever done with this client, even those which were not done, like failed RFQs. I'd like to know what was the position of this client with me across the whole period. I'd like to know each period what was the market conditions, what were the news relevant to this specific client. And I'd like, based on that, to have insight on, given this history, given current market conditions and positions, what is the client likely to do? Are they going to hedge or not hedge? Did they suddenly change profiles in their risk appetite or the way? So is there something I should advise on? So that's the first example. The second example is, suppose that I'm heading markets. So I have lots of traders with lots of different portfolios. And I tell you that as the head of the markets, I would like to have access to the state, the positions, the sensitivities of my portfolios by traders over time for the past 5 years. And I would like insight into, is the hedging strategy of a given trader changing? Is my risk profile massively changing? Beyond what VAR tells me, should I start to worry because all my portfolios have suddenly very correlated risks and the like. Maybe my two examples are not relevant. I would say it's not that important. What's important is more the question, if you assume that they are relevant, do you think today that banks have this level of data? If not, what should be put in place to be able to reach something like that? And if you had to build something around it, is it a topic on which you would buy technology, or is something that you consider you should build yourself, in whichever order?
So in the first example, you talked about having insights to the way the customers are interacting with the organization. In that case, I mean, for me, that's something everybody has to do. And it's a completely mandatory exercise, or everyone should want that, or the sales team should want that, the client relationship managers should want that. I think for the technology teams that work with those people, you need to consider the fact that you want, and I can't find a better way to define it, you actually want all the data all the time in terms of how those things happen. And so you have to design your architecture around making sure that all that data is visible and available and in a useful format. Now, how you get there, I've seen many variations. Sometimes it gets built because you have people with a particular skill set and interest in the data, and they build it in a particular way. There are lots of people with data tools in the marketplace now. I think for each individual person's circumstance, it depends on a few of those things, the skills that you have, existing tools that you have. But the thing that is really clear is the need to make the investment and make all of those things available. And it's something that it's not a decision that you can make at the end of a process and decide that you want it to be all available. I think it's something that people need to consider going in, that they need to design everything that they build now on the basis that they're going to expect all of the data that's inside their system to be available. And so therefore they need to think about how they're going to do that, whether they stream it, they share it, extract it, whether they run logging, however they want to do that. I think it's something that needs to be considered throughout the environment and then consolidated for use. But I'll...
Are there the necessary dynamics within the bank to do that today?
Sorry?
Do you have the investments, the mandate to be able to realize something like that today? Is it an issue? Is it a question which is at the top of the list?
It is. We have varied stakeholders. Yeah. For some of the stakeholders, it's right at the top. We often make progress on data as a consequence of a regulatory requirement, because we do surveillance on all of the activity from some of these people, and so they have quite often very similar data requirements to that the sales team want to have a look at. And so sometimes the opportunity to fix those data issues come through having regulatory requirements. And again, it's just about realizing that the data is useful for many purposes, and sometimes you use the regulatory requirements to build the infrastructure that you need to solve a different problem. But there's the desire, particularly from sales and traders, to have insight. I mean, it's never ending. It's just a question of how you accommodate and balance those priorities with everything else that you have inside your environment.
Thank you. Mikhail?
Well, first of all, I think banks have this data. It's just a question of using it well. In terms of CRM, I think it's probably not going to happen that you will get a predicted value of client behavior out of it, because let's face it, financial institutions deliberately put sales side institutions in rotation, and therefore do not let them see all sides of the deal, or don't let us see every deal that they do. So we only have partial data. But you should be able to tell what your clients might be interested in, what piece of information might be relevant to them. So you will be able to at least have a better understanding of reason to call your client. And if something comes across that might be of interest to them, you should be able to run a fairly quick view to see what other clients might be interested in something like this. And the use of CRM is endless. In terms of course, the risk management, I can't imagine somebody running a business and not having pretty up-to-the-minute view of the market risk that they carry. It just, in this day and age, I can't imagine that. It's a necessity. I think the supervisors require you to develop that and to have it at the level of the business you're running. You should be able to, at all times, see how you will, if you need to dial down the risk, or what kind of room you have if you want to put on risk, to have that in front of you. And if you're running a business, you want to see it at not just at the aggregated level, but also at the level of each of your trading desks, because you segregate the business according to that, or regionally, or by any number of ways. But you need to have that capability. It's a necessity. You must have it. And the question is how up to the minute it is.
Thank you both. Vast topic, and I must tell you that our level at Murex, in all humility, I think it's an area where we have some progress to make, because we manipulate within the platform a lot of data which is clean by definition every single minute, because people make decisions on that base, but then it evaporates at the end of the day. You know, surely there's something we can build on top of that. Now, let us stop there. We've scratched the surface on each of these topics. We have a few minutes left. You have the chance to be able to ask a question once again to two persons who have a very strong vision about the future. So please don't hesitate if you have questions to ask. There's a mic somewhere.
Hi, just wondering about your view on kind of data transparency, lineage, data tracing. Like, do you kind of understanding the provenance of data that flows through your system? Any thoughts on that, or ways in which you've been able to catalog and manage the data to be able to kind of give that end-to-end view, which obviously is going to be really important for regulatory purposes as well as business value as well?
We'll go first. Thank you. Very good question. Data quality and data lineage are the must if you are having to do regulatory reporting, which is probably where that question comes from. It's a number of institutions have stumbled on that particular topic, and so we certainly pay attention at the institutional level. But you need data accuracy, completeness, timeliness, and you need data lineage metrics at all steps along the process. And it's, as I said, it's a regulatory requirement to demonstrate all of those. And the downside, as has been demonstrated time and time again, is enormous. So I think most institutions pay close attention to those.
Yeah, no, I would support that. I think having an appropriate control environment, I think, is how I would describe it, though, just slightly differently. But I think it's the same thing. You need to be able to make sure that you can trace all of that data, make sure that it's reconciled, and be able to prove it not only to yourselves, but, you know, to the external organizations that want evidence of the fact that you have an appropriate control environment. And so it's something that we continue to worry about and invest in on an ongoing basis.
Thank you. Any other question? Apparently not. So listen, thank you very much. Thanks to both of you. Thank you for your patience. And if any one of you wants to take some of these topics a little bit further, we'll be around. Thank you.
Thank you very much.